Hey guys, welcome back to another Pickled Dragon Unscripted. Um, so I have some good questions that we're going to get to, but I always like to share a few things before we get started. And I got something really special I wanted to share with everybody because it is a gift that was given to me by a dear friend of mine, Tanya, the War Mistress. She's an incredible miniature painter, plays Warhammer. You can find her on Instagram at the.warmistress. But she painted for me this incredible Tiamat miniature. It's the Reaper Bones model. But, it's Tiamat. Come on. Five-headed dragon. And I really love her take on how she painted the body, the head, the different colored heads. They're not like the white head here. It's not, just in your face white, but it's got those hints. You know what color each head is, and it is incredible. She did an amazing job. I'm going to post a video. I'm going to attach a video at the end of this Pickled Dragon Unscripted, a little tribute I did for her. And I hope you guys enjoy it. But yeah, Tiamat. It's a beautiful, beautiful model she did for me. It's good to have friends, especially good friends like Tanya. So the other thing I wanted to share with you is I heard from Printable Scenery. I got this giant Tiamat that's crowding me out. My goodness. Okay. Well, I heard from Printable Scenery, who partnered with me on the last two adventures I released. This one, The Prison of Kos and Chlorhaven, The Evil Under Chlorhaven. Now, if you grab a copy of The Evil Under Chlorhaven, you're going to see all kinds of pictures of models and so forth. The village, the cave systems where the goblins dwell. And all of those things, you go to Printable Scenery, buy the files to 3D print the buildings, the tunnels, everything. Or they have affiliates that you can pay to have them print for you. And the affiliates, I think, are on their website as well. It's the www.printablescenery.com. But for Prison of Kos, it got a little bit more elaborate. We have these giant ziggurats that you can print out. You can print them out, and they come apart to reveal the different layers that you see on the maps here. And so as you take the different levels of the ziggurat apart, you actually can put your miniatures in, and those files are going to be ready very, very soon. Wrong way. It's all backwards. There you go. These files are going to be ready very, very soon. I'm told in probably a week or two. So if you get the Prison of Kos, you'll be able to go to Printable Scenery. You'll be able to print out not only the ziggurats, but the cave networks. Every aspect of the adventure you can render in 3D and have an awesome adventure before it. So yeah, Prison of Kos. And of course, our giveaway is coming soon. It's going to have several miniatures, a green dragon, a hydra, hags, and of course a copy of the adventure as part of the giveaway. That'll be coming, I'm thinking, pretty soon. I just need to get a few things from DriveThruRPG sorted, and then we will launch the giveaway. So there we go. Shared, good stuff shared. Good, evil Tiamat stuff. All right, so the first question we had was racism in D&D. My elf hates dwarves as an example. And I think there's a couple schools of thought. You could run, a classic Tolkien setting where the humans are sequestered off and the elves are sequestered off, dwarves are sequestered off. They don't really have much interaction with one another, so there's a lot of mistrust. You could run like a George Lucas Star Wars Cantina style thing where, they mix and mingle. You can have orcs hanging out with humans. But, or you could have something in between. And I thought that the how like Legolas and Gimli, how they started out as kind of I don't want to say enemies, but they certainly didn't trust one another, and that grew into a friendship. That's a great dichotomy, or a great dynamic that you can set up with your players, or if they want to role play that. And in the same vein, maybe you're playing a half orc character, and you're going to go into a little human village, and they're all going to be freaked out because there's a half orc there. The opportunities for role play are quite extensive when you do things like that. Um, but it's all in how the DM and the players want to run their campaign. I don't see anything wrong with playing the different groups against one another, because maybe that's part of the adventure. This adventuring group needs to win over a group of elves to go help a dwarven kingdom that's under siege from the Underdark, or something like that. I think that would be a lot of fun. So that's what I think. Um, I'd like to hear you talk about world building and how to develop a campaign in a homebrew setting. So I did a series of Instagram posts about this very thing. Um, it is a huge, huge topic. And I don't know that we probably would need at least a video in and of itself, and maybe we will do that at some point. But my best advice when you start talking about world building, especially when you're starting from scratch, the best thing I ever did was to build it organically with my players, and they didn't even realize. So, for example, when they started out at first level, I built a little town. I had all the NPCs fleshed out, and I had the little surrounding areas fleshed out. Um, but beyond that, I didn't really develop beyond that. I just kind of let the story develop from there. I didn't even really have an idea of that particular campaign, where I wanted to go with it, or the villain I wanted them to overcome. What I did have was a few small stories, 5 or 6 really good role players, and um, as those stories unfolded, and those little surrounding areas, were rescued from goblins or wolves or whatever, I started coming up with ideas, and I started growing the world around that one little place. And um, as it grew, so too did the campaign. Um, and that campaign world ended up being Adarith, my homebrew world. And every campaign I've ran for the last 25 years has been set there. And as the players have gone, they've explored more, and I've added more. It wasn't until, I would say, maybe 2011 that I had a fully realized map or world, if you will, of different continents and stuff that the players had all the previous campaigns had touched. Um, so, you know, I love the idea of growing it organically. A lot of people like to jump in the deep end and build this enormous not campaign, but continent, and and that is a lot of work to have to develop all the different cultures and all the different peoples and cities and towns and villages, and it can be daunting, and I think a lot of people get overwhelmed. But if you start small and let it grow, um, you can have a lot of fun with your players to see it grow together. So maybe we'll do a video on how my specific campaigns unfolded, and that might be an inspiration to others. I think that would be a lot of fun. So um, I feel that this is the next question. I feel that I always come to a game unprepared, even though I'm not, and end up winging in the session anyways, and lipping, I guess, ad-libbing key parts. Do you have a system or method to better prepare and stay orderly while DMing? well, you will never be truly prepared because your players, I guarantee your players, are always going to go left when you hope that they go right. And they're always going to do the unexpected. And you're always going to be ad-libbing and improvising. There's plenty of times where I had this entire shrine or whatever, temple, dungeon, whatever, mapped out, ready to go. I'm so proud of it. All they have to do is go left and they go right. And all I do is transport that from left to right. Is that railroading? Maybe, but the question is, did we have fun? And we did, and it furthered the story, and it also gave the party a little bit of a feeling like I knew we should have gone that direction. We arrived where we wanted to be, and sometimes you want them to get lost. You want them to have that struggle. And that's part of the reason why in a lot of my campaigns, I don't allow things like Ludman's tiny hut or magnificent mansion or teleport. I love the idea that part of the adventure is just getting there. And getting there involves sometimes getting lost. And maybe you have 5 or 6 ideas rolling around in the back of your head for an encounter or something, some sort of side quest that they can get lost in, and maybe it eats up a little bit of time that they needed to accomplish what they intended to roll out. And and as time dwindles away, they they can feel that crunch. The players, that is. So in terms of staying orderly and being prepared, I think the biggest thing is to be prepared for things to go awry, because that's generally what happens. And I think most DMs who have spent any amount of time at the head of the table will tell you that all you can do is prepare for the unexpected. So maybe have 5 or 6 just ideas jotted down, maybe a map or two, ready to go on the side. Because, again, players are always going to do what you don't intend them to do. So I would love to hear about game mechanics you love and the ones you don't. Are you a rules as is intended or rules as written sort of guy? I am certainly not in any way, shape, or form a rules as a written guy. I think I've talked about this before. I like to talk about the spirit of the rules. There are always going to be a handful of rules that aren't 100% clear, and I'm lucky enough to have players who can agree. They'll be like, yeah, I know that's not how they intended this rule to be used, or they're willing to accept that in some cases it's just not going to work. I in a lot of my adventures, I write. I take liberties with rules. I make a lot of my own magic items. I create new abilities and powers. I love to design new monsters. And many of them can do things that are in no way, shape, or form found in the monster manual or anywhere else. But those are the kinds of things that keep your players on their toes. So, one of my things that I dislike is, like rangers. Like if you're a swamp ranger and you get to a certain level, no kind of rough terrain is supposed to slow you down. Well, if you're in the Arctic and you've never once, been on sheer ice, to me, that doesn't make sense. And my players, have accepted that, and they even agree. They're like, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That guy's going to be slipping around with the rest of us, that sort of thing. So, and maybe we call those house rules. That's fine. the house rule, we have lots of house rules that we operate with. So, for example, standing from prone is supposed to cost you half your movement. And I've always used the rule that standing from prone should cost you 10 feet of your movement. And the reason for that is it never set well with me that a monk with a 40 speed could get up and it would cost them 20 feet of movement. And a dwarf who's overly burdened with heavy armor and whatnot could get up and, it only costs them 10 feet of speed if you take a half or whatever. If they're wearing armor and their strength isn't high enough for that armor, it only costs them 10. And that doesn't set well with me. So I've always just said, standing from prone costs you 10 feet of movement. And I think it's funny because my players, you do house rules long enough and they start thinking those are the actual rules. And so when we go out to places, they're like, isn't it, if we go to a con or something, they'll be like, they'll forget and have to get the DM will be like, well, the rule as written, it says half your movement. Well, in any case, yeah, I am definitely not a rules as written guy. I think that if the story dictates an alteration to the rules, I'm all for it. And typically it's done in a way that's logical, makes sense. Players can see, oh, well, this monster is, 60, feet tall and 5,000 pounds. And just because you have polearm mastery doesn't mean you should be able to reduce its arm speed to 0. The momentum of that creature is just going to carry you away regardless. So stuff like that, I like to use logic when we design our encounters and our adventures. So there you go. This is going to be a quicker video, I think. I don't even know how much time has passed, but I working on Days of Blight 3, and I am hoping to have Days of Blight 3 out by October, but it is by far the biggest, what do you call it? The most aggressive, the most ambitious adventure I've ever written. It's going to be on the DM's Guild. The first 2 Days of Blights are on the DM's Guild. So if you haven't checked them out and you're looking for, the first one, I've gotten great reviews. People call it's like perfect Salem witch trial vibe, and only there really is witches. And from there, the party goes into Days of Blight 2, where they actually hunt for the coven of witches that caused all the havoc in the first one. And the third one takes you across not only the material plane, but into Hades, where the Haglich, the head of the Grey Coven, dwells. And that's where I'm working on now. The reason it's so much more difficult is because it's a higher level adventure. Balancing encounters and play testing for higher levels is much, much more difficult. So it's going to be a process, and it's going to be getting it out in 2 months is going to be really hard, but we're going for it. So look for that. In the meantime, I do hope that you check out the Prison of Khass. You check out printable scenery. The other adventure is The Evil Under Chlorhaven, which was also partnered with Printable Scenery. And I just talked recently to the guys at Printable Scenery, and they want to do another one centered on undead. So that's coming. But I also want you guys to go give the War Mistress on Instagram some love. Give her a follow. She deserves it. She's an amazing artist, as you can see. And just an all-around great person. So, in the meantime, happy gaming, friends, and as always, be heroic.